Good afternoon, everyone. I call to order the regular meeting of the Minneapolis Planning Commission for May 6, 2024. My name is Chris Meyer, and I'm the chair of the Minneapolis Planning Commission. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Baxley.
Here.
Chowdhury is absent. Campbell is absent. Conley.
Here.
Emmerich is absent. Jones is absent. Meyer.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Thompson. Wait, Wagner. Sorry.
Here.
Thank you. We have 5 members present.
Thank you. Let the record show that a quorum is present. With that, we'll proceed to the agenda. We're going to begin with the acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 23rd, 2024. May I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? The motion carries. Next, we are going to organize our agenda. If you need paper copies, they're on the corner table over there. You can also find them online at limbs.com. So I'm going to read through the agenda numbers and addresses and state whether it's going to be slated for consent, continuance, return, withdrawal, or discussion. And I'll briefly explain the differences between consent and discussion items. Consent items are those that will be passed without discussion by the board. We're going to be adhering to the staff recommendations that are listed in the agenda in the items recommendation motion for those items. And any applicable conditions will be listed in the same section there. So if you agree with this recommendation, including any applicable conditions, you don't need to do anything. The commission will pass it as recommended. If you have any questions following the decision, you can check in with the staff member assigned to that item. If you disagree with the recommendation, please indicate that you would like to speak against the item when I ask, and then we'll put that item on the discussion agenda. So with that, for the following items on our agenda this evening, for item number 4, 2601 Minnehaha Avenue, staff is recommending that that item be continued to our next meeting, which will be on May 20th, a couple weeks from now. So if you're here for that item, that item is going to be continued later because at the applicant's request. For item number 5, 3115 DuPont Avenue North, this item is recommended for consent. Is anyone here to speak against item number 5? Okay. We'll put that on consent. For item number 6, Spike Moss Way, that item is recommended for consent. Is anyone here to speak against item number 6? Okay, for number 7, 622nd Avenue South and 625 Marquette Avenue, this item is recommended for consent. Is anyone here to speak against item number 7? All right, and then for number 8, 3525 and 3527 Chicago Avenue.
Chair Meyer, I believe.
Yes, that's the one that has the sign. Would you like to put that on discussion? Okay. For number 7, we will discuss. And we will also be discussing item number 8, 3525 and 3527 Chicago Avenue. All right, so to review, we will be continuing item number 4 to May 20th. We will have items 5 and 6 on consent, and we will be discussing items 7 and 8. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
All in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The agenda carries. All right, so I will now open the public hearing on the consent items. Would anyone like to speak on items number 5 or 6? This is a chance if you want to comment about them, but don't necessarily have any opposition, you can do that now. All right, I'm not seeing anyone here for the consent items. Yeah.
Would it be,
Chair Meyer, it might be helpful to read out what the items are in case
Sure.
community members don't have the agenda in front of them.
Yeah, I can repeat them. So for item number 5 on the consent, this is 3115 DuPont Avenue North. And for item number 6, this is Spike Moss Way. That's the memorial naming. Right. Did you have any comments that you wanted to make, Councilmember?
No.
Okay.
Appreciate you.
Yep. All right. Seeing no one on there, I will now close the public hearing for the consent items. Do I have a motion to adopt items 5 and 6 as recommended by staff?
So moved.
Second?
All right. All in favor of adopting items 5 and 6 as recommended by staff, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Items 5 and 6 are adopted. All right, and now we'll turn to Aaron Hanauer to present item number 7 to us.
Chair Meyer, I apologize. I will take the heat for this because I don't think I put it in your script, but even though we're continuing item number 4, we still need to open and not close the public hearing for item number 4.
Okay.
Just in case folks were only able to come down today and not able to come down when we continue the item. Thank you so much.
Okay, we can do that. So I will open the public hearing for item number 4. Was anyone here to speak to item 4 who wanted to speak now? Otherwise, you can also speak when it comes back on May 20th. All right. Not seeing anyone, I will close the hearing.
Don't close the hearing.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Leave it
sorry. Excuse me. So is there a motion to continue item number 4 to May 20th?
So moved.
All in favor of continuing item number 4 to May 20th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That carries. All right, now we can turn to item number 7 with Aaron Hanauer.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. This one. So for the North Star Center building at 625 Marquette Avenue, the proposal is to,
Mr. Hanauer, before you get too far into your speech, these mics are really sensitive. So even though they're both on, because it's the one on that table is so much lower, it's not picking you up, and we need you on for the captioner. So
right.
if you can either get closer to the one at the table or use the one at the podium, whichever you prefer. Thank
okay,
you so
I see.
much.
Thank you. Sorry about that. All right. So for the North Star Center, 625 Marquette Avenue, the proposal is to allow a wall sign that exceeds the maximum height allowed as of right for a building that exceeds 6 stories in height in the downtown district. So the North Star Center, built in the 1960s, listed on the National Register, and significance being it was one of those buildings to help combat the exodus of people leaving for the suburbs. So it's a city within a city. The complex takes up more than 3/4 of that city block from Marquette, 7th Street, 6th Street, and 2nd Avenue. The proposal that we're talking about is a sign that would be 111 square feet on the Marquette Avenue elevation. There's no sign there today. On the 7th Street elevation, this really gives a really good idea of what that new sign is going to look like. It's going to be pretty much an identical replica. It'll be a replica of what's there on 7th Street. That would go on the Marquette Avenue elevation. There's a major renovation going on with the entire North Star Center complex, and this sign is one of the parts of that remodel. CPED is supportive of the conditional use permit to allow this new sign, and you can see it perhaps in more rendering at evening with the lighting proposed. So CPED is supportive of the sign. It's within the size allowance, 111 square feet, as I mentioned before. 120 square feet is allowed. It's in all other signs that are proposed with the sign sign plan are in compliance with the zoning code. Each elevation is within its sign allowance, and we really feel like, I mean, subjectively, I think it would be an improvement to what's there now and help improve the appearance of the Marquette Avenue elevation. So excited for all the improvements that have been happening with this project and including the sign. And happy to answer questions you have for this conditional use permit application.
Thank you for that presentation. Commissioners, do anyone have any questions? Oh. Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Meyer, and thank you, Mr. Hanauer, for your presentation. I just kind of wanted to ask, do you have an idea of what the purpose of the sign will be? Is it a name? Is it advertisement? Will it be changing from time to time?
Thank you. Councilmember Chowdhury, the sign is part of their branding. You can see the star and sphere on not only that 7th Street elevation currently, but throughout the building, inside and out. And I think one of the hidden gems of downtown is this courtyard that's on the upper portion of, I believe, the parking podium. So there too, you can see from the distance, you can't see it in these pictures, but that same logo is there. And so it's not looking to change. It would be static and, again, just part of their branding for the complex.
Thank you, Mr. Hanauer, and thank you for all your work on this. I think that will be a wonderful addition.
Any further questions for staff before we go to the public hearing? All right, I'll now open the public hearing. Is the applicant here to speak to this item? Oh. Yeah, if you'd like to present, you can. If you don't.
I don't have anything additional
Okay.
to say.
Yep. And then anyone else who would like to speak to this item, we'll give 2 minutes per speaker. The people who wanted to take this off the consent agenda, did you want to speak to it?
No, that answered all my questions.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other testifiers, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have any comment? All right. Does anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt staff recommendations.
There's a motion to adopt staff recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on adopting the staff recommendation for item number 7? All right. Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item number 7 is adopted. With that, we will turn to a presentation for item number 8. Ms. Silas.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Meyer, members of the commission. The project before you is at 3525 and 3527 Chicago Avenue. This parcel is, the site is composed of 2 parcels. 3525 Chicago is a very small, oddly shaped parcel of only 2,900 square feet that currently has a single-family home on the site that was formerly a commercial building, you can tell from the design of the home. And then 3527 Chicago contains an auto repair garage and driveway and surface parking lot. The applicant is Pillsbury Theater, and they are proposing to demolish the single-family home, combine the sites, and construct a new 2-story mixed-use building at the front of the site along Chicago. The existing auto repair garage will be renovated and will serve as an accessory structure to the new building. So there are 2 applications in front of you. One is a variance to reduce the minimum floor area ratio from 1.0 to 0.57. Even though the applicant is proposing to increase the overall FAR on the site from 0.28 to 0.57, given that they are demolishing a structure, combining the sites, and because it's 2 separate structures, it does still require a variance in the Corridor 6 built form district. And then site plan review is also required for the new building. So you will see the existing sites here. That very long, skinny building is the single-family home at the north of the site, and then that garage will remain. And here is a site plan of the proposal. So the new structure will be 2 stories, and between the mostly blocking the garage from the street, and the surface parking lot will be shrunk down in size to accommodate the new building. The driveway that exists there today will remain. Here's some floor plans. They're a little small, but the main floor will be used for the radio station and staff offices. The second floor is also accessory staff space and 2 rooming units that will be used for visiting artists. And then here's a floor plan of the garage. It looks like a garage. There's going to be some bike parking in there. Here are the elevations of the building. As far as elevations go, there were some blank walls on the east elevation. The applicant has proposed a mural in that location, which staff has included as a condition. And then elevations of the garage. And some renderings of the structure. As you can see, the second story is smaller than the first story, but the applicant has provided a green roof and some outdoor amenity space on the roof. I know there were some questions about the floor area ratio variance. So in the zoning code in the built form chapter, minimum floor area ratios regulations do not apply to expansions of buildings that existed prior to the effective date of the ordinance. We have interpreted that to mean that it's a building expansion, so a building addition that is connected to the existing structure. So for example, if the new building on the site was connected to the existing garage, we would not have triggered the minimum FAR variance. But because the applicant has proposed 2 separate buildings, something the staff was very encouraging of, because the new building was between the garage and the street rather than being, located set back from the street, that the fact that it's 2 buildings is what's triggering the FAR variance. As far as the findings, staff felt confident in all of the findings. This is an existing building on an existing site. The property lines of the 2 existing sites are odd, and they're combining them into kind of one more, buildable site. And the location of the garage and some of the existing features of the site limit the buildable area. As far as reasonableness, kind of given that provision I already mentioned, if this was an addition to the existing building, we wouldn't have triggered the FAR variance. In addition, the site is moving closer to compliance with regards to floor area ratio. So the current FAR is 0.28, and it will be increasing to 0.57. The new project will bring the site in compliance with the minimum height of the Corridor 6 built form overlay district of 2 stories, which is currently not in compliance with. In addition, the applicant is proposing landscaping, a green roof. The building is going to shield that garage and surface parking from the street and improve kind of pedestrian-oriented design principles of the site that are very auto-oriented today. And then just to kind of sketch out a couple of things. So the building is 4,495 square feet of gross floor area. So you'll see that top image is kind of what a site would look like where that building would comply with a 1.0 minimum FAR. Whereas if you were kind of imagining separating the sites in a different way where the you were trying to actually create 2 parcels for the new structure shown in that bottom image, that would be an FAR of 0.75. But just to note that these are just for conversation's sake, and the surface parking already exists and is accessory to the garage on the site. So whether if we were creating a separate parcel, it would have property lines like this. This is just kind of to visualize what a 1.0 FAR would look like. So staff is recommending approval of both applications. There are 8 stated conditions for the site plan review application. And please note, I did send out a memo. There was a date error for condition number 1. So that should be May 6th, 2026, not 2025. And I will stand for questions.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation. Are you looking to ask a question? Okay. Commissioner Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. President, I have a question about, can you go back just a few slides to the Google, like the street view of it? I don't live too far from here. So talk to me a little bit more about the building expansion exemption, it sounds like there would be. So from my understanding, on 35th, Pillsbury has a building. So talk to me about that building in comparison to this one. Like, how far apart are they? Like, what's the definition of building expansion? Would it? I'm thinking that their existing building, that's expansion, but this is a connected building, but just a little bit further away.
So yeah, so
Talk
you
to me
can
about
actually
that.
see Pillsbury Theater is kind of up at the corner of 35th in Chicago. My understanding is that Pillsbury owns all the parcels between this parcel and that parcel, and the applicant can certainly speak to, they have discussed some longer-term plans for kind of all of those sites and how those are going to create kind of a vision for their campus moving forward. The question about the building expansion was in that chapter about minimum FAR. We interpreted that to mean that if it's an addition, so it's connected to the existing building on the site, right? So if there's a building on the site that is not compliant to the minimum FAR, and you put on an addition, that does not trigger a minimum FAR variance, because in those cases, we would assume that you are moving closer to compliance because you're adding more floor area.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you, Chair Meyer. I have a question about, I'm struggling with the challenges exist wording in the variance or whatever you want to call that. So just to clarify my understanding, would they be able to build a building twice as tall with twice as much bar on the exact same footprint on the lot? And it, like, I guess, like, is that a challenge if they're able to do that anyways? Do you get what I'm getting at?
You're asking if they could just make the building taller to include more floor area in the new building?
Yeah, like, to me, and I'm just trying to understand better, like, what is a challenge? Like, if you're able to just double the height of a building, is that really that challenging? Does that make sense?
I am not involved with the construction of the building or any of that, so I can't speak to reasons why a two-story building may be much more feasible than a four-story building. As far as staff's interpretation of the first finding for variances, we have never said that there is no other option, right? We have never said that we can only grant a variance when there is no other option besides what you present to us. Really, the question before us is, are there unique challenges on the site that result in the variance request? Well, on this site, there is an existing garage. There's a lot of existing asphalt. It's been an auto repair shop for a long time, so there may be site conditions that would require environmental remediation depending on the location of a proposed building. Those, in my opinion and staff's opinion, are unique circumstances on the site, both with locating a building and then making the building footprint, large enough to comply with the minimum FAR.
Thank you.
A couple questions from me. Can you turn to where you have the practical difficulty listed? Because right. So I just want to make a note. In the packets that we have, under the practical difficulty section, it makes kind of a descriptive statement about the parcel as being irregularly shaped, but that's not listed here, and I just wanted to highlight that because I don't want the irregularly shaped part of it to be it's not being presented as a challenge because the two parcels combined make a regular shape. Is that correct in how you?
Correct. Yeah, and I actually believe the applicant has some images that kind of detail this a little bit more. So the existing parcel, the existing 3525 site is irregularly shaped and extremely substandard in size. It's only 2,900 square feet. So, if we were imagining a situation where they wanted to construct this building just on that site, clearly there would be constraints to doing so because of the very small size of that lot.
Okay. Yeah. yeah, if it was irregularly shaped on just, if it was just one of these plots, then that might be one considered. But for this one, as combined there, it's not irregular, and that's not being presented as a challenge. It's just the garage on site is existing and restricts the building area. That is the practical challenge here.
Correct.
And then my second question slash you've already answered it, but just want to highlight it. So if just the new building, subtracting the existing garage, driveway, and surface parking, that exceeds the 1.0 FAR.
Yeah, I can go back to that slide. Let's see. So it's hard to even imagine what the boundaries would be, right? Like if you draw a box around the building, it's going to exceed the 1.0 FAR, right? Because a 1.0 FAR is a building that encompasses the entire property. So lot line to lot line, that's 1.0 FAR. So, if you draw a box just around the building, yes, it is a 1.0 FAR. And this kind of awkwardly shaped one where it's like, okay, you're also including the stairway up to the roof and a little bit of the surface parking. That's also, a 1.0 FAR. Whether we want to get into a discussion of like, how you would even draw the lines, I think it's a little hard. It's hard to imagine where exactly you put those boundaries. But that top image would be the building would be a 1.0 FAR of a parcel of that size and shape.
Okay. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Chair, President Meyer. I have a question not about the FAR, which I know is probably what triggered this, but about the landscaping requirements, and that it's like half. What is proposed is approximately half of what it would normally be required in compliance, and then the tree situation. Is there a reason for that? What was the logic behind that? Is it just space, or not wanting to deal with the garage? What was that?
Yeah, so a lot of the concrete on the site is existing and not proposed to be modified as part of this proposal. The building if you go to the table for alternative compliance, so essentially the applicant has proposed 763 square feet of landscaping on the site, but they've also, and the reason that is smaller is because, there's limited green space on the site, even though they're kind of adding a little bit for that tree island, and there's like a tiny strip along the north. There's just not a lot of area to be landscaped, but the applicant has also proposed providing a 570 square foot green roof and almost 300 square feet of landscaping in the public right-of-way along Chicago. So we don't count those things towards the minimum because the zoning code says, your landscaping requirement is landscaping that should be provided, within your own property lines and planted in the ground, right? But the applicant, because they have these site constraints, they have proposed, instead of providing all the landscaping in the ground within the boundaries of the site, to have this green roof and then to provide landscaping in the public right-of-way. And all of those things together, landscaping on the site, green roof, and in the public right-of-way, would add up to the same amount of landscaping they would be required to have on the site. It's just they're proposing to locate it slightly differently than we would typically indicate.
But we can't have trees on a green roof, right?
Correct, yeah. And so we went back and forth about that. The spaces available for trees were very limited. They proposed a couple of trees just north of that driveway at the back of the site, and then one tree in that tree island area, but there are utilities running through the tree island area that might constrain the roots of the tree. The location doesn't allow for a full canopy tree. I don't know if the applicant has images, but they did show me what a 20-foot canopy would look like, what a 35-foot canopy. So we say a canopy tree has to have at least a 35-foot canopy, and there wasn't any place even in that tree island to put a canopy tree where it wouldn't be running into the building as it grew. So as far as conditioning any canopy trees, so they proposed 3 columnar varieties of tree, which we don't count those typically towards the canopy tree requirement, but granting alternative compliance for this section would allow them to use the columnar trees instead of canopy trees. The applicant had also talked about, because Pillsbury does own the site to the north, whether they could plant a tree, a canopy tree, like spanning the property line at the north. Because that was just tricky to be able to condition a tree that was only half on the property, I didn't put that as a condition, but it sounded like something the applicant was willing to do, just probably not something that our zoning inspectors want to go out there and enforce.
Excuse me, understood. That makes sense. I have one last question in regard to just different ecological type things. The garage, this is not my areas of expertise, this is sort of a question / comment. Would digging that up require some sort of environmental, like soil quality, like suddenly you have to do a bunch of stuff, for different qualities, like stormwater and all this kind of stuff, so like leaving it be means, hey, we don't have to do it?
So that would be a good question for the applicant. I don't know if they have done kind of soil testing, or, I'm sure they have a lot more information on that than I do. But certainly there could be there could be additional considerations that happen if the, garage were to be demolished.
Is there any, like, if they own the lot, obviously, and they're wanting to build on it, and yes, the theater is just 2 blocks down, or 2 parcels down. Is there any, are we going to have to be dealing with something like this again later, or does this, like, how does it work when you only upgrade one part of the site and not the totality of it?
Sure. So the garage and the location of the driveway, those are kind of grandfathered as far as their location and their size and that sort of thing. Including the garage obviously counts towards the FAR on a commercial site like this. So it's really completely up to the owners at this point. If approving the new building doesn't require them to maintain the garage in perpetuity. If they wanted to demolish the garage, they would have to come back because they would be reducing the FAR on the site. So that would be another conversation in front of the Planning Commission. I know the applicants have plans for the other sites that they own in the future, and so this accumulation of sites may well be coming back before the Planning Commission over time, but. And maybe the applicant can speak to the condition of the garage too. Like, it's, I would expect that they wouldn't be proposing this whole new building that's going to accommodate the, continuing to use the garage if it was something that they weren't anticipating was going to, last long enough to be worthwhile.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Any further questions? And before I turn to the public hearing, I'll just note Commissioner Baxley notified that he will need to recuse on this one. We do have quorum without you, so if you want, you can leave. If you want to say, you can. Up to you. Oh, and since people mentioned it a couple of times, let's just go with chair. So that'll save you a couple of syllables to make it easier for you. Okay. All right. So I will open the public hearing. Is the applicant here to present? Go ahead and introduce yourselves, your neighborhoods, and your titles, how you'd like us to refer to you, Mr., Mrs., Doctor, whatever you'd like that.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Hi, everyone. My name is Noelle Raymond. I'm the Senior Director of Arts and Culture for Pillsbury House and Theater, and I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm Michael Hoyt, the Creative Community Director at Pillsbury House and Theater, Central Neighborhood.
Oh, I'm Canefield.
Hi, I'm Kristen Murray. I work with Element Commercial Real Estate. We're serving as owner's rep for Pillsbury House and Theater, and I live in the Lyndale neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Jessie Baldry, project architect with Gensler.
And I wonder if it would be useful if I just tell you a little bit about the story of how this project came to be, which actually started in way back, but in 2021, David Halverson, who's the owner of the Halvey's Body Shop, came to us to say he was ready to retire and would we like to buy this property because he was very invested in what he had built over the 25 years that he had been there and wanted the amenity, the property, to stay anchored in the neighborhood and to accrue benefit to the folks that live and work in that neighborhood. And at that time, we saw that as a real opportunity to bring together some threads of things that our artistic community and our geographic community had been dreaming up. And one of those was a training program to get more folks of color into the theater, tech, and media arts trades. Long ago, a group of designers of color had noticed that they were the only ones in the Twin Cities who were working regularly, and they started a training program as independent artists on their own and had been working with us over many years to think about what might it look like to have an ongoing way to get more folks into the theater, tech, design, and media arts trades. That's one thread. The other thread is KRSM Radio, which is 5 years old now and is housed in Wade House, which is a park facility and inaccessible to the 50-odd hosts who make radio on the regular on that station, don't have access all the time to get in and do what they need to do and don't have the facilities that are up to the kinds of projects that they imagine for themselves and they want to have. So we thought, what if we're able to acquire this site, we're able to honor David Halverson and what he's built in here, we're able to put some legs under this dream that these designers and theater technicians had for how they bring the next generation of folks into the trade and provide a way for KRSM to have a visible presence on the street in South Side. They are the voice of the South Side. And so, magically to us somehow, we were able to purchase the site and start to really work with these folks to figure out what do we need in order to accommodate those dreams. And that's really what we're here talking to you today about. This is phase one. It has been a Jenga puzzle of trying to put all of these things together and figure out how this site can house all of these things. There's a much bigger dream that includes losing some of our parking lot to create more green space and have a commons that allows for people to come together. Like we discovered in the pandemic that outdoor activities, our community needs that, our community craves that, and when we are outside, all kinds of folks come and plug into the things that we're doing, and we want to continue that. And part of the vision is this green roof, and the outside part of the new facility actually talks to the parking lot and the other facilities, so we're imagining a way for all of these things to kind of interrelate and support community in dreaming up new things and making them happen on our site. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just have to say, this dream didn't start when David knocked on our door. We've been in a relationship with David for decades. But it's also a dream that's been born out of community process. We've been in conversation with our neighbors and have developed a creative community development report developed by our community in 2017. So this has been a conversation that's been happening for about 15 years. And this is just one sort of element in a way to really develop workforce development and to stay in relationship with our neighbors. We've been in this location since 1980, and we hope to continue to build with our neighborhood and bring more resources to our community and to our neighbors.
Do we sit down?
What happens now? Well, first, commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not necessarily a question. I might have one question about the Red House. But I just wanted to really thank you I appreciate the background. This certainly is a staple area of the South Side. If I were to say there was an art district in the South Side, this area would be it. I remember Pillsbury House when I was small, so I love to see it expand, and the more that you do. I was thinking about the garage, and I think I heard mention that there could be repurposing, or like that could be a space where young artists could thrive and do things. So I am pleased to see that some of these technical pieces were able to be resolved through work with staff. I'm thankful to staff for that, and just a personal thank you. I did see the single-family home, so I'm going to hope that it's vacant, or could you speak more to making sure that there was no displacement that may have happened? And also, thank you.
The long building, It had been long vacant, decades, so it was, sort of terminally vacant. I think there is a red house that's next to it, and that's, as far as I understand, a rental property now, and there are folks that live there.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've seen that house there for a very long time, didn't know it was sitting empty, but this is a great use for the space, I think, and just grateful also for the green roof. We're trying to do more about this heat island that we live in, the entire planet, really. But I just am thankful that I'm seeing this and look forward to the next the next project that comes before us. Thank you.
Well, and if it's okay, could I add, part of what we're envisioning too is being a resiliency hub and a place for folks to gather when a climate catastrophe might happen. And so some of the amenities that we're working on building into the site are a bathroom that's accessible from the outside, so that unhoused community members might be able to use that on occasion, water, Wi-Fi, electricity, those kinds of things that folks need on the regular. So.
I'm not seeing any other questions, so thank you for your testimony. Is anyone else here to speak on this item? Okay. I'm not seeing anyone, so I think who?
Is this the time to?
Yes, if you'd like to speak.
Community?
Yeah, if you'd like to speak for or against this one, now is the time, yes. If you can tell us your name, your
My name is
neighborhood.
Randa. Oh, sorry.
And
My name is Randa Downs.
And I'm Chris Chinque.
And we live directly behind Halvey's. And we love the Pillsbury House. I'm concerned about a year-long build, a demolishing of buildings, the construction, what kind of air quality is impacted.
We've been dealing a lot with asthma, so there's a
Yeah.
question about that. We're right on the other side of the alley of Halvey's.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the red house that is occupied by a couple of neighbors.
Yeah,
I
that's,
think it'd be great to have the radio station have housing and be more accessible to the community. Anyway, I know it was said that this has been a long time process. I've lived in my house for 25 years, and I just saw the notice about you having your hearing now.
so no one
So we're-
connected with us.
We're like, don't know about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I apologize for the dark, I can't see anything, so if you're indicating something, I can't see you. But, so anyway, we're just concerned about how much, like, noise and dust and dirt and disruption there would be for our block while
And I
this process is going on.
Yeah, and I understand they can only construct work from like 7 to 6 or something. But I've lived next to a door to a construction of a 3-story townhouse in Seattle, and it was a nightmare. The dust alone was a nightmare. That's one of the issues for me. So I don't know if that's containable, if it's done over, I don't know. I'm not an architect, so if anybody can speak to that, that would be great. You have anything else?
One of my questions was is Halvey's building going to have an extra story built on it? And that was answered here, that it's not, that the 2-story building is going in front, which is sort of reassuring because, I don't know, that would make the alley very crowded. So, so anyway, we're just 2 neighbors and we have questions about this project. Anything else?
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Happy to respond to that.
Well, first I'm going to turn to Kimberly. Kimberly, can you just review what mitigation measures are taken for dust and what policies there are around that?
Yes, so that actually all falls with our construction code services team who reviews the building code or the permits for building code and monitors them throughout the construction process with regular inspections. I can't say exactly what the mitigation measures are required for dust, but they are certainly out there regularly, and it sounds like the applicant does have a plan for how they would mitigate that going into the project. Often being a good neighbor and having on-site contact information goes a really long way with those sorts of situations. If there are concerns that someone can be contacted and it can be addressed, so we always encourage that as well.
Okay. And then before I turn back to the applicant, I'm just going to check, was there anyone else who wanted to testify on this item? All right. If you want to add a couple short thoughts in response.
Sure. I can just say thank you for that question and concern. I totally understand. Our planner, Lindsay, did let us know that that question had come in, and so we took the opportunity to talk with our general contractor. I'm sorry, the mic, I want to talk to you. It feels weird facing this way. So we spoke with our general contractor, Flannery Construction, who one of the reasons we selected Flannery is because of their community orientation and their real concern about they I think see themselves in relationship with not just their client, but with the folks that are living and working around the sites that they're building. And they shared a couple points that I'll share about how they would mitigate dust during the construction process. So first of all, just to say that they do frequently build in residentially populated areas, and so mitigation for the effective reduction of construction impacts is always a priority concern to them. So effective dust control measures that they typically utilize to mitigate risk include water sprays, so watering methods which are the most effective and widely used manner of controlling construction dust, dust barriers, windbreaks, avoiding heavy dust generating work on high windy days. That's avoiding heavy dust generating work on high wind days, and then covering materials to minimize the generation and disbursement of dust materials when necessary. And then they also noted that they are kind of constantly reviewing their plans to, effectively mitigate dust and create a cleaner and safer environment for everyone. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
With that, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, is there any discussion, or does anyone have a motion? Commissioner Conley.
May I add a comment, Mr. Chair? Just, I would encourage the communication between as this project carries forward, just encouraging the communication and dialogue between yourselves and the neighborhood organizations. CANDO is very involved in all things Pillsbury, so just being in communicate how things are progressing can go a long way in terms of making sure that community knows what's next, when things start, how things go, et cetera, et cetera. So if you haven't gone to a CANDO meeting, I would encourage it, just so that the neighbors know what's happening, when it's happening, and the timeline, and can get some of their questions answered. Thank you.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Meyer. I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate the thoroughness of the applicant and just working with our city staff on alternative compliance, and really just appreciated your proactiveness in reaction to public comment here. And I'll just echo Commissioner Conley's words of connecting with community members and being good neighbors through this process. Sounds like we have an opportunity to share contact information right here in the chambers, and that's always good. I also just based off of that, we'll be planning on supporting this. I did want to just share a comment about the project itself. I think this is one of those projects where we get an opportunity here in the Planning Commission to touch. It's a highly technical part, but it's moving it along the process. And this is one of those projects that really makes Minneapolis unique and really provides for our community. I'm really excited for the ability to train BIPOC, femme-identified youth and artists in theater, tech design, provide spaces and resources for those artists and opportunities to grow their businesses. That Resilience Hub is something that we really need on the south side of Minneapolis. It's a great consideration of our south side green zone. And I also really appreciate the thought around being accessible to our disability community. And I see that a lot of the people that are behind this are also from our neighborhoods here. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge this part of local government and being a part of making a really positive change in our community in a time when we need it.
Thank you, Councilmember Chowdhury. I'll add my own comment. So I will also be supporting this today. This is one of several times where we're being asked to consider variances to the new minimum density requirements that have been recently implemented. So I want to make sure that we're being consistent and thoughtful and when we do that, and I think this variance does meet that. But I just want to reiterate that when the variances are put forward, that the irregular shape should not be listed as a specific practical difficulty, but it's because there's the existing garage and because the project is moving in the direction that we're trying to see, and because at least by one standard of measuring it, the new property, the added part would be over the 1.0 if we exclude the garage and surface parking. So with that, Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you, Chair Meyer. I've been struggling with this one all day and all weekend, and I kind of want to echo what you said. The minimum FAR variance is fairly concerning to me. I think it's a very slippery slope that we need to be extremely thoughtful about moving forward. And this is a great project for the neighborhood and for the community, and I'll be supportive as well, but I think that it's really, really close for me, and I think that we need to be really, really thoughtful and careful about granting these minimum FAR variances moving forward.
Councilmember Chowdhury, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would love to move this for approval.
Second.
All right. There is a motion and a second to approve item 8 as recommended by staff. Clerk, please call the roll.
I know you already said this, Commissioner Baxley, but just for the record, you mentioned that you abstained.
Yeah,
Okay.
abstain. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you for the vote. Thank you. Commissioner Chowdhury.
Aye.
Campbell is absent. Conley.
Aye.
Emmerich is absent. Jones is absent. Olson.
Aye.
Thompson.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
And Chair Meyer.
Aye.
So we have 6 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention.
Thank you. So that carries and concludes our business. Our next planning commission is this Thursday. It's at 6. This is the joint meeting with the Capital Long Range Improvement Committee. In the past, we've come close to missing quorum on that one. So if you're not going to be there, please let us know as soon as possible. It's also in the other building. I got them mixed up. And then the next one after that will be on May 20th, and then Committee of the Whole on May 23rd. Staff, do you have any other announcements?
That was going to be my only update. Just a reminder that the regular Committee of the Whole meeting will not be happening on Thursday. It's only the joint CPC click meeting at 6 p.m. in room 100 of the Public Service Building, where we had our most recent Committee of the Whole meeting. And quorum at that one, yes, is very important. There's a lot of items on the agenda, a lot of good projects that we need you to weigh in on. So appreciate your attendance at that meeting.
And if I can piggyback off of that, because it is even though we generally meet Planning Commission Committee of the Whole on Thursdays, which is only requires a quorum of 3, this is a meeting of the Planning Commission, and so the quorum is 5. So that is the minimum we need, and we would like to not put click out because we didn't meet quorum. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. If there are no further announcements, we are adjourned.